Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on the screen. వస్తుందా? Small L, capital L. Okay. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on the screen. Yes. Right. Good morning, guys. I think people are facing some problem with Google Classroom Code. In Google Classroom Code, right, sir. Now with this Classroom Code 6.3, I might be we understood previously. Now small L we understood previously, but it is what there capital L, I think so. Small L only. Okay, right. 6.3 small L. This is not I. Small L 5Y3D. This is small L. It is working. Please check this. Okay, those who are in online, just I'm trying to copy this as it is in questions box. Now try to take it and try to enter the same code. Otherwise, in a Java 830, I given a post. In that post, I have given a link. Through that link also, you can come to this one. Even I'm going to give that link also to you. Through this link also, you can add it to Classroom. A link also I'm sending to all of you guys. Now try to collect that link. Yes, confirm to me. All of you are getting the classroom code and link in the questions box. All of you are getting it. Yeah. Try to use that even. You are able to you are able to enter into the respective content. Okay, now people are added. Nice. Right, sir. Anyway, now let's move on to the content. What we are discussing there in the sequence. In advanced Java, we are discussing about prerequisite part. Here we are discussing that. In a prerequisite part, mainly what we are discussing here, class.forName method and a new instance method. Here we are discussing. Am I right? Class.forName method, new instance method that we are discussing. 1 minute. Right, sir. Consider the following program. In this program, Harsha, light. In this program, what you are having, light, what you are having there. So class A, I have taken inside this class A static block that I have taken. Inside this static block, I have written system.out.println class loading. So this anyway, we understood clearly previously. Static blocks are recognized and executed at what time they know? At the time of loading the respective class bytecode to the memory. After that, constructor I have taken. I know at what time this constructor is going to be executed. At what time this constructor is going to be executed here? No, at the time of creating object. Next I have taken class tester, public static void main string array aux a small a is equal to new a constructor. When we create this particular class, whenever we are executing this particular instruction, first right side part will be executed. In the right side part also, first new keyword will be executed. Now new keyword will initiate the object creation process. As part of the object creation process, first JVM has to load A class byte code to the memory. Right, at the time of loading A class byte code to the memory, what's going to be executed here? Static block is going to be executed. Where we got the answer is like what there? Class loading, that output here we are getting. Right, A class byte code is loaded. Then after that, JVM will create a memory for the object internally. After creating memory to provide initial value inside the object, JVM will access what their constructor. To provide initial values inside the object, what JVM is able to provide? Constructor. When a constructor is provided, automatically constructor will be accessed here, constructor will be executed. When a constructor is executing, there we are getting output like what there? Object creating output here we are getting. What output here we are getting there? No, object creating output here we are getting. Right, sir. So when we execute this particular object creation statement, automatically JVM is performing two activities. What are two activities that JVM is performing now? First one is JVM will load the respective class batch code to the memory, and the second one is JVM will create object for the respective class. But I have a particular requirement. What is my requirement here? In the above context, as per the requirement, we don't want to create the object, but we want to load a particular class byte code to the memory. We don't want to create the object, but we want to load a particular class byte code to the memory. In Java applications, if you want to load class byte code to the memory without creating objects, then we have to use the following method from which class can know? Java.lang.class. In Java, class is also a class. Class is a keyword and a class is a class. In a class C is a small, then class is a keyword. In a class C is a capital, then that is what they know, a class. Right, understand this clearly. Next one is like what there, what is a method syntax here we are getting there. This is a total method syntax. Public static class for name, string a class name, throws a class not found exception. Alright, sir, all of you understand this clearly, what I am telling to you. After completion of this, observe carefully one example. Up to this part we completed in the last session. Now we are going to understand the next example here. Example, all of you observe carefully. This is our frequently used method in JDBC. In JDBC, I need this method frequently. Again, I will talk about this topic in the JDBC again with respect to the JDBC. But now still is a part of the prerequisite. No, that's what I try to understand it. Say for example, I have a class now. What is this class actually? Class A, it is existed. Now this class A is available in a package. What is this package now? Com dot Durgasoft dot something else like what I'm telling there. Com dot Durgasoft dot app 10, for example, some application here app 10 dot inside this app 10 then what I'm going to provide here, that name is like what there entities is a name here that I've taken. So package com.durgasoft.app10.entities. Now inside this class, nothing I'm going to be provided. Just leave this one. Maybe I can provide static blocks. I can provide like what there, constructors. That's okay, but not required here. Understand it clearly. Next one is then what I'm telling now. Class test. Class test. Inside this, what we are having there, public static void main of string array args. Then inside this, I want to use like what there class.forName method. Now forName method is a static method or not? ForName method is a static method. Immediately, what we have to recollect in our mind here now, that method we can access by using class name. That method we can access by using reference variable and a class name. But suggestible one is what there? Class name only, not a reference variable. Then here immediately we have to provide like what they know, class dot for name method. Okay, fine. Now here we need to provide fully qualified name of the respective class. Fully qualified name of the respective class. Now I'm asking one question to all of you guys. Try to answer for it. What is fully qualified name of the respective class? Exactly. If you provide any class or interface along with its package name, if you provide class or interface along with its package name, then that name is called as like what their fully qualified name. Just like your surname and your name. If you provide your name along with your surname, then it is a fully qualified name. Just if you specify your name only, then that is what they know normal name. Now here we have to provide fully qualified name. What is that fully qualified name? Here we can understand now. Com dot Durgasoft dot app10 dot entities dot name is a. Then after that semicolon. Observe carefully, guys. For name method, what it able to do, I will explain to you. Don't worry. But what is its return type actually? Return type is not integer. Return type is not what there no float. Return type is what there no not even a string. Return type is what there a class. What is that class name? No class. Java.lang.class. So it able to return class object or not? It able to return what object there no class object here. So here we have to catch the return value by providing class reference variable. For example, class C is equal to, or maybe I want to say CLS for example. Class CLS is equal to class.forName of com.durgasoft dot app10 dot, then what next one here? Entities dot a. This instruction here we provide. Now here my question is what there. If we use this particular instruction, what happened internally? Of course, I understood the main functionality of this forName method. Without creating object for class A, just we want to load A class bytecode to the memory. Where my intention is what there, without creating object for class A, just I want to create, just I want to load A class bytecode to the memory. Understand my point clearly now? Now let's observe this flow of execution here. What I'm telling to you, try to understand this total flow of execution. When JVM executes, class.forName method, when JVM executes class.forName method, JVM will perform the following actions. What actions that JVM is able to perform? Just we are going to list out all these actions. No, first try to understand all of you guys. Very simple points I'm telling to you. Now try to understand it clearly. That very first point here, what I'm telling to you regarding this particular one. Very first point here, what I'm telling to you. For the forName method, what is parameter? What is the parameter for the forName method? com.durgasoft.app10.entities.a. Then first what JVM will do now, JVM will take the provided parameter class. JVM will take the provided parameter class. Okay. And then what next one here? JVM will take the provided parameter class. That's okay, fine. After that, what next point here we have to understand there? JVM will search for its dot class file. JVM will search for its dot class file. Yet I'm going to give three locations to you. Location number one, at current location. Come on, guys. Now observe carefully. At what's that one here? At what location? No, current location. And the second one is at Java predefined library. At what location? No, at Java predefined library. The next one is at the locations. At the locations referred by class path environment variable. At the locations referred by class path environment variable. Observe carefully. At the locations referred by class path environment variable. Observe carefully. Here what I'm telling you now. Okay, fine. Alright, sir. All of you observe carefully. Then what is the point I'm telling there? First, JVM will take the provided parameter class. What exactly the class is available inside the parameter? That means inside this class.forName method parameter. First, JVM will take that parameter of the respective class. When JVM is taking parameter of the respective class, that's a class name only, fully qualified name of the respective class. then JVM will search for the respective dot class file at 3 locations. At what locations it able to search there? No. First one is at a current location. First one is what there at a current location. Second one is what there at Java predefined library. And third location is what there? No, at the locations referred by class path environment variable. Two cases are available. What are the two cases here? No, observe carefully. If the required dot class file is not existed at all the above locations. Understand it clearly what I am telling there? If the required dot class file is not existed at all the above locations, then JVM will raise an exception. JVM will raise an exception like what is this exception here? No, Java dot lang dot class not found exception. Come on, guys, observe carefully what I am telling to you. If the required dot class file is not existed at all the above locations, then JVM will raise an exception like java.lang class not found exception. Okay, now in this program, class.forName method is throwing a class not found exception or not. So to handle that, either we have to use throws keyword or we have to use try catch finally. Later on I will discuss there, but as of now here I'm using like what there? No, throws exception. I'm using like what there? Throws exception for the sake of handling the exception which is raised by class.forName method. Okay, fine. Now let's observe carefully. If the required dot class file is not existed at all the above locations, then JVM will raise an exception like java.lang class not found exception. Then what is the fourth point here? For example, if the required dot class file is existed, if the required dot class file is existed, then what we are going to do now? Everybody understand my point here clearly. If the required dot class file is existed at either of the above locations, if the required dot class file is existed at either of the above locations, then what next one here? No, JVM will load its bytecode to the memory. JVM will load its bytecode to the memory. Tell me, you only tell me at which memory that bytecode will be loaded. At which memory that bytecode will be loaded, guys? Now tell me. In a method area. Then where the bytecode is going to be loaded here? No, in a method area. In a method area only bytecode is going to be loaded. Try to understand it clearly. If the required dot class file is existed at either of the above locations, maybe at the current location, maybe at Java predefined library, maybe at the locations referred by which environment variable? Class path environment variable, then JVM will load its bytecode to the memory that is in method area. All right, sir. Next one. Listen carefully. There is a fundamental point in Java. What's that fundamental point here? When a class bytecode is loaded to the method area, automatically java.lang.class object will be created. Yes, sir. Which object is created here? No, java.lang.class object will be created. In java.lang.class object, metadata of the loaded class will be stored. In a java.lang.class object, which data will be stored there? Metadata of the loaded class will be stored. What is this metadata actually? What exactly the meaning of metadata here? Metadata in the sense some details about the loaded class. What details about the loaded class here? No, you can understand like what there. The details of the loaded class would be name of the class which we have loaded, then a superclass of the loaded class, implemented interfaces of the loaded class, all variables details, all methods details, all constructors details, every information about the loaded class will be managed in a separate object at heap memory. That object is what there? Java.lang.class object. Inside the class object, the total data of the respective class is existed. Right, sir. Now the point is what there? When a class bytecode, when the required class, when the required dot class, when the required class bytecode is loaded to the memory, is loaded to the memory, JVM will create java.lang.class object in a heap memory. JVM will create java.lang.class object in a heap memory. In heap memory, where JVM will store where JVM will store metadata of the loaded class. Metadata of the loaded class. What exactly the metadata of the loaded class here I'm telling there? In the above context, metadata of a class. Metadata of a class is here we can specify like what there name of the class or simply class name. Next one is like what there super class details. The next one is like what there implemented interfaces details. Implemented interfaces details. Then after that, after completion of this variables method variables details. Next one is like what there constructors details. Then after this methods details and so on and so on and so on. All these details here we are able to provide. Try to understand this clearly. Right, sir. In the above context, metadata of a class is what there? Name of the class, superclass details, implemented interfaces details, variables details, constructors details. Then what next one can know? Methods details and so on. Right, sir. Then whenever this metadata is available inside the java.lang class object, then what is it next point here? We have to understand there sixth point. JVM will return java.lang class object from for name method. Java.lang class object from what method? You know, for name method. Yes, is that point is clear to all of you guys? What I'm telling to you. Now let's observe carefully what exactly the actions which are performed by JVM when we are using class.forName method. Now try to understand all these points here. First one is, see, observe carefully. Right, sir. In this section, in this code, when JVM executes this particular in a section, JVM will perform some activities internally. What activities that JVM is able to perform there? First, JVM will take the parameter class, what we provided to the forName method. JVM will search for its dot class file at the three locations. What are the three locations? Current location from where we are running this program. Java predefined library. The locations referred by class path environment variable. Okay, if the required dot class file is not existed at all the above locations, their JVM is able to raise an exception. What is that exception? Java.lang.class not found exception. If the required dot class file is existed at either of the above locations, then JVM will load its byte code to the memory. JVM will load its byte code to the memory. When the required class byte code is loaded to the memory, JVM will create java.lang.class object in heap memory, where JVM will store metadata of the loaded class. Here, in the above context, metadata of the loaded class, metadata of a class is what there? Class name, superclass details, implemented interfaces details, variables details, constructors details, methods details, and so on and so on and so on. Every information about the respective class will be managed inside the respective java.lang.class object. And finally, JVM will return java.lang.class object from forName method. This is what exactly the points here we can understand now. Now let's observe this coding part here. What I'm going to be specified there. New project here. I want to take new Java project. Now inside this, then project is like what there app06 that I provided. Everything is okay, and click on next button. Then click on finish button. Not required. And next one is like what I'm telling there. Then after that, right click on SRC folder. Now let me create a package. New package here I'm going to create. That package would be like what there com dot Durgasoft dot app06 dot. Just I want to take like what their entities. Right, sir. Now inside these entities only, I'm going to create a class. Now here I want to create like what there a class. What is this class name here? I want to create there just a only. I want to create, not more than this. A or maybe any name here we can take, but for our simplicity purpose, I'm taking A. That's okay, fine. Now let me click on this finish button. Inside this class A, what I'm going to provide here directly here, I want to provide a static block. Inside this static block here, what I'm going to do there, no, just I want to write like what there system.out.println of class loading. Class loading that we provided. No. Next one is like what there? What I'm going to provide there? Constructor. Now I have to declare that constructor as what there? Public. Why? Because we are dealing with the packages now. We are dealing with what they know packages. No, that's why here we have to take the public constructor. Why? Because we have to access it in outside maybe so many times can. That's why here we require like what there constructor. Then inside this constructor here what we are doing there system.out.println of just I want to write like what there object creating. Right, sir. Now this is my entity class now. My entity class I have taken. What is it? It's a fully qualified name of this particular entity class now. Com dot Durgasoft dot app06 dot entities dot what there? A we are getting. That's okay, fine. Now let me go for right click on SRC new package. What is this package? I'm going to take there com dot Durgasoft dot app06 dot app06 dot then what next one here after that no test package here I'm going to take. Inside this test package I'm going to write my test class I required here. Name of the class is test. Here main method is required and click on finish button. Now inside this test.java what we required here. Now okay, observe carefully. I need to create a class.forName method. Now here what I have to do there class CLS is equal to class.forName method here I want to take. Now here I need to provide fully qualified name of the respective class. What is that fully qualified name of the respective class? Here no com dot Durgasoft dot app06 dot entities dot a. That's a fully qualified name of the respective class. Still we are getting an error or not? Still we are getting an error. Why? Because why we are getting this error now? It able to handle some exception. It able to rise some exception. What is that exception? It is rising there now. Class not found exception. That is checked exception actually. So compiler is identifying that exception and compiler is giving an information to us. Unhandled exception is available. Damn sure this exception will come at runtime. So try to handle it. Try to handle that exception. There we can see that error message clearly. Multiple markers. Last point here we have to understand no unhandled exception type class not found exception. Compiler can identify this exception at the time of compilation. But how I'm going to handle it no? Just move your cursor there where two options are coming. What two options here we are getting there no? Either throws keyword we have to use or we have to use what there no? Try catch here. Now simplicity point of I'm going to use what there? Throws keyword. Throws keyword here I'm going to use. In throws keyword either we can use directly this class name or simply we can use what there exception. Now here I want to simplify this topic here. I don't want to go for like what there class not found exception throws exception simplicity throws exception easily we can understand this clearly. Right sir. Now let's observe carefully. Now this is my code here and I want to block this code anyway. Before going to understand this code, first of all I want to create object like what there a small a is equal to new a that I want to do. A small a is equal to new a. Then immediately what is going to be happen there? First a class bytecode will be loaded. Static block will be executed. After that constructor will be executed. Object will be created. Now let us check this clearly. What output here we are able to get here. Now get directly here we have to click on this run button. If we click on this run button here we are getting output like what there? Class loading and object creating. Class loading, then what next one, object creating output here we are getting. That's okay, good. Next up, I don't require this one here. I don't want to create object for the respective class. Just I want to load class bytecode to the memory. That's my requirement. If you want to load class bytecode to the memory, then what we are able to do there? Now observe carefully. Class CLS is equal to class.forName of A. That's what we have to get. Now directly here we are getting what output here no? Class loading. What output is not coming there no? Object creating output is not coming. It means that without creating object, only class bytecode is loaded or not. Without creating object, only class bytecode is loaded. Now this is what exactly the purpose of like what there class.forName method. Understand it clearly. No object. That means a class object is not created. But internally, class object is created. Java.lang.class object is created. That Java.lang.class object is having metadata of the loaded class. The total class object reference value will come to CLS. Where if you want to see metadata of the class there, then I'm able to show some points here. System.out.println of CLS dot get name of the class here we are able to get. Say for example, superclass of the class also be here. I'm going to provide there. CLS dot get superclass dot get name. Again, superclass is able to return, get superclass is able to return superclass metadata in the form of again class object. Over that class object, if we call get name there we are able to get what there name of the superclass here we are getting. Guys, all of you give response for me. What is the superclass for class A? Do you have any superclass explicitly? No superclass is available explicitly. When we are not providing any superclass explicitly, by default, one superclass is available for every class in Java. What is that superclass now? Java.lang.object class. Java.lang.object class. Right, sir. Now here, I want to display the details clearly. This is my class. Now this is what they know superclass. What is the superclass for this class? Java.lang.object. Object is acting as what there? Superclass for our class A. Right, sir. Now this is not required here. Just we can understand clearly. Right, sir. Now this is a program here. This is a valid program here. What I given there. First we have to take a.java. Right, sir. Now observe carefully. Example a.java. In place of a, we can take maybe employee or student or whatever it may be. Whatever the class here we can take. No. But the point is what there? Just I want to load class batch code to the memory without creating object. Now this is like what I'm telling there. Tested.java. Right, sir. Here what we are getting there, no tested.java here we are getting there. Output also be like what there. What is that output here we are getting there? If we observe this output here we are getting. Right. Next one is I'm going to show one more point. Now try to understand this clearly. A.java is existed here as it is. Under program is very same. Program is very same. But what change here I want to provide there? In place of A, I want to provide B. Do you have any class B here in our program there? No, we don't have any B. Now let's check this one. Now get in place of A, I want to provide like what there? B I want to provide. But in our entire project, only we have class A. We don't have any class B. Now get what we are able to get. Here we are getting an exception. Please try to read out this exception here. Exception thread main java.lang. Class not found exception. Right, sir. Which class is not found here? No, B. B class is not found. Right. Now here we are able to get this particular message. Status is like what there? Here we are getting this one here. What is the status here we are getting here? Java.lang. Class not found exception. Colon. What is that exception description here? No. com.durgasoft.abb06.entities.b. This class is not found. This particular class is not found. The data here we are getting. So finally, all of you are getting clarity on this. Why we are getting class not found exception and what is the functionality of class.forName method? What is the functionality of class.forName method? All of you are getting clarity on this? No response, guys. Guys, all of you had breakfast? No? Only some of the members are completed. No, right? Are you expecting breakfast from Durgasoft? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, definitely. I'll provide breakfast. No need to worry for it. Huh? Right, sir. What breakfast you required? Pulihara. Right. On that particular day, just as a prayer of goddess Durga Devi, Durga Mata, we provided one day prasadam to you, right? But don't expect every day prasadam, right? Fine. Anyway, so class.forName method is very important method. Required information are given in the prerequisite part. Again in the JDBC, steps to prepare JDBC program. where inside this one step is available. Load and register driver class. Here loading the driver class is nothing but loading class bytecode of the driver class. To load only class bytecode to the memory, we are going to use what method here? No, class.forName method. That's it. Not more than this. Okay, fine. Leave this one. As of now, just we can leave this one. The next one is like what there? New instance method. Up to now, just we understood class.forName method. Now here, what we have to understand the new instance method. What exactly the purpose of this new instance method? Guys, I'm asking one question to all of you. Now try to answer for me. In Java applications, if we load any class bytecode to the memory, if we load any class bytecode to the memory by using what their class dot for name method, by using what their dot class for name method, if you load any class bytecode to the memory by using class dot for name method, okay, that means if you load any class bytecode to the memory by using class dot for name method, and if we want to create an object for the loaded class explicitly. After loading class bytecode to the memory for a particular class by using class.forName method, if you want to create an object for the respective class explicitly, say for example, I loaded a particular class bytecode to the memory. I completed my requirement. But in the middle of the program, in one instant, in one particular situation, it is required to create an object for the loaded class. I want to create an object for the loaded class. I may have such type of requirement. Class bytecode loading is one phase. Creating object for the same class is another phase. In two different phases, I want to do that. Not immediately. If I use a small a is equal to new a, immediately loaded, immediately object is created without having our control. But now my requirement is what? When I want to load class bytecode, then I want to load class bytecode. That's it. After loading class bytecode, after some time, maybe at some other location, for the loaded class, I want to create an object, not immediately. Right, exactly. In this particular situation, after loading class bytecode to the memory, by using class.forName method, if we want to create an object for the loaded class, then we have to use the following method from java.lang.class. This method is also be coming from what they know, class. Java.lang.class. What exactly that method here? We have to understand this clearly. Public void. This is not static method. Right. So now public void, not public not void. Public object. New instance. Method name is like what there? New instance. It able to throws out two exceptions actually. What are the two exceptions? You know, first one is instantiation exception. Right, sir. What is this first one actually? Instantiation exception, comma. Then what next one? You know, uh, illegal access exception. In object orientation already covered this point here. Instantiation exception. Then what next one here? Illegal access exception. This is what exactly the method information here. Point is clear or not? All right, sir. What is the prototype of this particular method? Complete description of this method. Public object. What is this written type of this particular method? Object. It has to create the particular class object. That object value will be written in the form of superclass type. In the form of java.lang.object type. Anyway, object is a written type. What is the method name? You know, new instance method. Throws. It able to throws out two exceptions. What two exceptions it able to throws out there? No, instantiation exception, comma, illegal access exception. Understand it clearly. All right, sir. Now here I want to give example code here. I'm telling to you what exactly this example code here. Observe carefully. Already that code is existed here. We can understand now. Right, sir. What is this example code here I'm telling there? Anyway, now let me remove these packages and all. No, just simple pseudo code here I'm trying to explain now. In the official program, we are going to see the package and everything here. That's okay, fine. Now here class K, of course, everything is available inside like what there and package. Okay, fine, no problem. Com dot Durgasoft dot app some value here app06 for example. Then what next one entities. Okay, that's a package name here. Okay, inside this class a static block and constructor here we have taken. Now here I'm not going to use this particular in a section. Then what I'm going to use there class.forName. Class CLS is equal to class.forName of these two things. That means total fully qualified name here we have written. That's okay, fine. So bytecode is loaded. After loading this class bytecode to the memory, then I need to create an object or not. That's why just I want to take like what there object obj is equal to cls dot new instance method here we have to call cls dot what we have to write there new instance method. What's going to be happen? Observe carefully. CLS dot new instance method. Okay, then what is going to be happen here? Listen carefully. When JVM executes, CLS dot new instance method, JVM will perform the following actions. What actions the JVM is able to perform there? Right, sir. All of you observe carefully. JVM will go to the JVM will go to the loaded class. JVM will go to what they know loaded class. Understand my point clearly? Loaded class. That is what class here in this case? No, that is A. That is what there A. Fine. Next one is what there? That is class A. Class A, loaded class. Now inside this, what JVM is able to do? No, JVM will search for what? Now tell me, what it able to search? JVM will search for a zero org constructor. JVM will search for zero org constructor, zero org and non-private constructor. Zero arg and non-private constructor in the respective class, in the loaded class. Yes, all of you are getting my point or not? JVM will search for a zero org and a non-private constructor. It may be public, it may be protected, and it may be default, but it should not be a private. It shouldn't be a private. Right, sir. Now observe carefully. Next one, after completion of this particular one. All right. If JVM is not identifying, JVM is not identified any public, any like what there, zero org constructor. If it is not available, if zero argument constructor is not available in the sense, definitely it identifies parameterized constructor. So if zero argument constructor is not identified, if JVM is not identifying any zero argument constructor, JVM is not identified any zero argument constructor, then what JVM will do? Then JVM will raise an exception like what is this exception actually? Java.lang.instantiation exception. Guys, all of you are getting my point here. First JVM will go to the loaded class where JVM will search for zero argument and a non-private constructor. If no zero argument constructor is identified in the loaded class, or else if JVM is not identified any zero arg constructor in the loaded class, then JVM will raise an exception like what there? Instantiation exception. Java.lang.instantiation exception. Okay, now point number 4. If JVM is not identified, any non-private constructor, any non-private constructor. If no non-private constructor, that means if JVM is not identified any non-private constructor, that means identified only private constructor. If JVM identifies only private constructor, then JVM will raise an exception. JVM will raise an exception. Like what is this exception, guys? Now tell me. No, Java dot lang dot. What is this exception here? No, illegal access exception here we are able to catch. Then JVM is able to raise an exception. That exception is like what there? Java dot lang dot illegal access exception. Okay. Now here point number 5. If JVM identifies zero org and non-private constructor, zero argument and non-private constructor, zero argument and non-private constructor, then what will happen here now? If it identifies there, then JVM will create object by executing the respective constructor. JVM will create an object by executing the respective constructor. Whatever the constructor it is searching, if it is identified, then that constructor will be executed. With that, JVM will create an object. JVM will create an object by executing the respective class constructor. Next one, after that, whatever the object is created, there automatically object reference value is created or not. Then finally, what JVM is able to do there, JVM will return the generated object reference value. Generated object reference value. That's it. Guys, all of you understand this, what I'm telling to you? What is that first point here? No, JVM will go to the loaded class, that is class A. JVM will search for a zero arg and a non-private constructor in the loaded class. If JVM is not identified any zero argument constructor in the loaded class, then JVM will raise an exception. Like what is that exception here? No, java.lang.initialization exception. If JVM is not identified any non-private constructor in the loaded class, then JVM will raise an exception. Another exception is like what there? What is that exception here? We are able to get there. No, that exception would be java.lang.illegal access exception. If JVM identifies zero org and a non-private constructor, then JVM will create an object. An object by executing the respective constructor. After that, JVM will return the generated object reference value from new instance method. From new instance method here we are able to get. That's it. Now this is what exactly the point here I'm telling you. New instance method. This is a flow of execution. Now here we are going to understand all these points in clear-cut information here. Try to recognize this. I think you understood that internal flow of execution here. Say for example, here I'm thinking about it, class A is existed here. These two things are not required. Now just I want to create an object for the respective class here. Object obj is equal to CLS dot, what is this method here we have to use there? New instance method. CLS dot new instance method. See, whenever I have written this new instance, there is a strike off or not? Strike it off. What is the meaning of this strike it off here? Deprecated, outdated method. In the previous versions, it is available. Now we are planning to remove this method in the future versions of the Java. Now I'm using which version of the Java? 17 version of the Java I'm using. In the future versions of the Java, this new instance method may not be existed. With respect to this particular method, in place of this particular method, we may provide some other new, more effective method. But this method we are going to remove in the future releases. To give that information, ID is striked off the respective method information, new instance method. Okay, no problem. Still it will work. Still it is working for us. Why? Because the current version of the Java is supporting this method, but it is giving intimation to us in the future releases. In the future releases, it is going to be deleted. Right, sir. Now this is the point here I'm telling to you. Try to observe this clearly. So now here it is completed. First of all, inside this class here, what we provided here, Static block we provided. Next one is what they know. Public constructor here we provided here. Now insert this tester.java. Just we call like what there cls.new instance method. Let me execute this here. What we are getting there? Class loading separately, object creating separately. Class loading separately. Then what next one here? Object creating separately here we are getting. Okay, fine. Now here I want to go for some content here. Now here this time I provided public and zero argument constructor. That is our required constructor now. For example, if I provide int I, what I provided here no int I, it means that one parameter I provided. When I provide a parameter as a constructor, is there any chance to have default constructor? When we provide any parameter as a constructor, is it possible to provide default constructor? Guys, first of all, confirm to me what is default constructor. What is the default constructor? Default constructor is a constructor which is provided by come on, what do you know? Plus give information there. Then after that I will correct it. Default constructor is a constructor which is provided by, yeah, some of you are saying JVM. Okay, from here itself we have to understand default constructors are provided by compiler, not by JVM. Try to remember this. Okay, when a compiler will provide a default constructor, when we are not providing any constructor in the respective class. When we are not providing any constructor explicitly in the respective class, then only what we are able to get there? Default constructor. Answer my point clearly. No. So okay, default constructors must be provided by compiler when we are not providing any constructor explicitly. For example, if I provide a constructor explicitly, if I provide any constructor explicitly, where compiler will not provide what their default constructor, where compiler will not provide what their no default constructor. So for the sake of you, I'm asking one question to all of you guys. Now tell me, this is what constructor, sir? Now tell me, is it not default constructor? Default constructor or not? Yes or no? How many of you are saying yes, it's a default constructor? Please raise your hands now. Just casual, I'm asking that. Required. You need to change it. Now tell me, any of you are saying it's a default constructor? Yes or no? No, this is not default constructor. This is user defined constructor. That constructor was not provided by compiler. So answer my point here. So for example, I'm telling to you, observe carefully. I'm removing this one here. Now tell me here, how many constructors are available in class A? How many? Any constructor is available in class A? Yes, exactly. One constructor is available in class A. One constructor is available in class A. That constructor is what there? Default constructor. It is not visible for us. Default constructor is not visible for us. Are you getting my point or not? Right. When a default constructor is visible for us, no. When it is coming there, no. Right, sir. When we use the Java P command and command prompt, if we display the list of the content here, then we are able to get what there? Default constructor. So that's a separate proof. But anyway, we can understand if you're not providing any constructor in our class there, then automatically compiler will provide default constructor. But if you provide any constructor explicitly, then compiler will not provide a default constructor. Please remember this. All default constructors are zero argument constructors only. But all zero argument constructors need not be default constructors. Some zero argument constructors which are provided by compiler are only default constructors. Some zero argument constructors which are provided by the developer. The zero argument constructor, this is zero argument constructor, but which is provided by the developer is not what they know default constructor. All right, sir. Now here, observe carefully here. We are having a parameterized constructor here. Int I is existed here. Parameterized constructor. Now inside the test class, we are using what method here? No, new instance method here we are using. Now let me execute this in a section here. Now here we are getting one exception here. Try to understand this exception, guys. What we are getting there? Java.lang. What is this exception now? Initialization exception. Description of the exception is what they know. A. Which class object is not created? That value here we are getting. Java.lang. New initialization. That means Java.lang. Initialization exception here we are getting. Okay, fine. Right. Nice. Next one is in class A. My constructor is a zero argument constructor only, but now this is private constructor. Of course, we are dealing with the packages, no? Anyway, no problem. Which constructor it is now? Tell me. Which constructor it is now? Tell me. Private constructor. If it is a private constructor, what's going to be happen here? Now observe carefully. Now here we are getting a particular exception. What is that exception here? We are getting there now. Java.lang. Illegal access exception. Illegal access exception. Test class. Test cannot access a member of class A with the modifier private. With the modifier what they know? Private here. So this exception here we are getting. Guys, all of you understand this clearly. If zero argument constructor is not identified, compiler, that means JVM will raise an exception like what there? Initialization exception. If a non-private constructor is not identified, only it identifies private constructor, there we are able to get like what there? No, there we are able to get illegal access exception. For example, listen, all of you, think and give answer here. If I provide both private and parameterized constructor, my constructor is a private and as well as like what they know? Parameter. My constructor is what they know? Private and as well as like what they know? Parameter. Now you only tell me which exception here we are able to get. But remember this, in Java, at a time only one exception will come. In Java, at a time, how many exceptions here we are able to get? No, only one exception we are able to get at a time. But with this particular scenario, with this particular construct, how many exceptions are possible here? No, two exceptions are possible because of the parameter initialization exception, because of the private illegal access exception. So two exceptions are possible here from this instruction. But in Java, at a time, how many exceptions here we are able to get? No, only one exception here we are able to get in Java. Now here my question is, out of these two exceptions, at a time only one exception here we are able to get, remaining exceptions are not coming there. So in this instruction, which exception we are able to get from this program? Come on guys, you have to answer for my question here. Which exception here we are able to get now? Is it initialization exception or illegal access exception? Is it initialization exception or illegal access exception? How many were saying initialization exception? Please raise your hands. Initialization exception, raise your hands, please. Illegal access exception. Oh, perfect. Majority of the people are providing like what there? Illegal access exception. Okay, sir. Definitely, I need to provide a breakfast for you, sure. What you are getting, sir? What exception here we are getting there? No. Initialization exception here we are getting. What exception here we are getting there? Initialization exception. First priority is given for what there? Parameter. First priority is given for what there? No. Parameter check. Next priority is given for what there? No. Access modifier. Access modifier is for next priority. Parameter is for what they know? First priority. Yes, all of you are getting clarity, no? Now, this also be a point here we have to recognize. Now, get note of a point here I'm telling there. What is that note here inside this? Understand this. What is the note of a point here? No. If we provide, that means if JVM identifies, what is it? No, JVM identifies parameterized and private constructor in the class, then JVM will rise. What exception here? No, Java.lang. Initialization exception only. Java.lang. Initialization exception only. That's it. JVM will write Java.lang. Initialization exception. Now observe carefully. Here I'm going to write some program here. What are the program I shown clearly? Now let me check this here. A.add here. I want to write like what there. It's like what there public. Now here I don't want to provide any parameter here. No. So this is my right program here. What I prepared here. Right, 1 minute. A.Java. Next one is after that test.java. A.Java. Then after that test.java. Here, let me write this test class content here. Right. For this program, what is that output here we are able to get there? Output value will be very simple. Only two outputs here we are getting, class loading and as well as like what there? Objective creating. This positive case only here we have taken. Right, sir. Then where we are able to use these concepts effectively. But anyway, this is only explanation point of I'm giving there. But when we go for exact requirement, there I will go for some differentiation. But try to understand it now. Class.forName method will be used in JDBC. Without a class.forName method, we are unable to write JDBC program. Please remember this. Why? Because my situation will be in JDBC program, I must load driver class bytecode to the memory without creating object. I have to load driver class bytecode to the memory without creating object. Because of that reason, I must use class.forName method for loading driver class bytecode to the memory. Yes, sir, all of you are getting clarity or not? Next, the next point is what there. Second point is what there after completion of this. Where we are going to use this one. Guys, all of you answer for my question now. What is servlet? Any idea? Servlet. Any idea? Don't worry. If you're not having that, so you're not aware about that. That's why you're coming to these classes now, right? Okay, I'll explain. Don't worry. Servlet is a program running at a server side. This program is a normal Java program which is executed by JVM. Here, there is no concept like client server architecture. But if you take any servlet application, client server architecture will come. Client is nothing but browser. Then at server side, server software is available. Apart from the server software, we have to write a program to execute that program at server machine only. We are going to write a program to execute that at server machine only. That program may be a servlet program, that program may be a JSP program, that program may be a EJB program, that program may be anything. Now here our requirement is what there? Servlet. Servlet is a server side program. Am I right or not? Servlet is what there? Server side program. Guys, now tell me, answer for my question. Who is executing our normal core Java program now? This is my J2SE program, core Java program. Who is executing this program there? Don't say developer is executing, sir. Of course, developer is click on that run button, that's okay. But internally, who is executing that now? JVM. JVM is executing that. Similarly, server side programs are executed by server. Server side programs are executed by server. Nice. Up to this point, we are able to get very much clarity. Leave this one. How JVM is executing these programs are? How JVM is executing this core Java program? By calling directly what method here now? Main method. Directly by calling. Main method is a open door. Main method is a first door for JVM to enter into your application. So JVM will execute main method. By executing main method only, JVM is executing our program. Point is clear or not? Similarly, at server side, how server will execute server side program there? How server will execute servlet program? Servlet is a server side program. How JVM is able to execute that servlet program there? Inside the servlet program, we don't have any main method, where the design is not available with main method. Moreover, the servers are not going to search for main method to execute that main method program. No, that's up to our J2SC part. That's up to our core Java program. But how servers are executing our servlet program? Listen carefully. Every server side components are every server side program. Instead of saying program, I want to say server side component. Servlet is also a server side component. JSP is also a JSP server side component. EJB is also a server side component. Every server side program is having its own life cycle to execute its functionality. Every server side program is having what they know? A life cycle. Every server side program is having what they know? Life cycle. By following that life cycle only, server side programs are executed by server. Server will execute life cycle of the servlet. Server will execute life cycle of the servlet. By the execution of the life cycle activities of the servlet only, servlet program will be executed. Yes, all of you are following this point or not? Nothing, sir. Very simple. Server-side programs are executed by following their own life cycle, not like by executing main method. First of all, don't expect any main method in the server-side program. That main method and command prompt, everything we are going to see up to core Java only, up to JDBC max. Once we are coming to the server-side program, no, every time we are going to talk about the server-side program and server execution, life cycle of the server-side component. So to execute a servlet, servlet lifecycle is available. To execute JSP page, no, JSP lifecycle is available. To execute EJB component, no, EJB lifecycle is existed. Now here, my point is what there, no, here I want to execute my servlet. So by following servlet lifecycle only, I'm going to execute what there, no, servlets. Guys, all of you are okay? All of you are following, that means all of you are able to understand. Whether you are understanding or not, just leave this one. All of you are listening my statements, no? But nearly I observed clearly, more than 50% of the people are sleeping now. Not even a single, one or two members, more than half of the class is sleeping. How they are sleeping there? Whenever I'm checking their faces, no, gradually their eyes are closing. At one particular point, continuously they are closing their eyes only. What I have to understand, if you are closing your eyes, no, either two ways, no, might be you are listening completely, putting more concentration on my subject, or secondary is what there you are getting sleeping. What I have to explain, sir? Then I'm discussing that very good topic. Use case I'm telling there, but now we are sleeping. Right. So better tomorrow onwards, better bring some chocolates inside the classes. No, chocolates or maybe some dry foods are available outside, right? Pista or maybe some badam, right? And this kind of dry food, better to get them. Then try to use that inside the classes. No, but class is important. Right. Coming to the point here. Let me finish this point here. Finally, now tell me how server-side components are executed. By following life cycle. By following what their life cycle. Servlet is having its own life cycle or not? JSP page is having its own life cycle or not? Still no response. Right, sir. Then EJB is having its own life cycle or not? Then servers will follow that life cycle to execute servlet component, to execute JSP component, to execute EJB component, not by main method. Clear? Let's come for servlet life cycle. All of you come for servlet life cycle. What exactly servlet life cycle? Listen, only 5 points. Only 5 points. Now try to remember these 5 points now. Number 1, servlet loading. What is that first one again? No? Servlet loading. Number 2, servlet instantiation. Second one is what there? Servlet instantiation. Number 3, servlet initialization. Servlet initialization. Number 4, request processing. Request processing. Last one, servlet deinstantiation. Come on, tell me what are the 5 lifecycle states now? Servlet loading, servlet instantiation, servlet initialization, request processing. Last one is servlet deinstantiation. Right, sir? Clear or not? All these life cycle activities we don't require as of now, but I require first 2. I need first 2. What are the first 2, sir? Now tell me. Servlet loading. Next one is what there? Servlet instantiation. Same life cycle activities are available for JSP. Same life cycle activities are available for EJBs also. EJB loading, EJB instantiation, damn sure. JSP loading, JSP conversion to servlet. Again, servlet loading, servlet instantiation. Okay. Now servlets, if you observe there, servlet loading, servlet instantiation. What is the meaning of the servlet loading there? First of all, tell me what is this servlet now? Servlet is a server-side class. Servlet is a server-side program. Server-side program in the sense what they know? A class, server-side class. So servlet loading is nothing but loading servlet class bytecode to the memory. Now loading servlet class bytecode to the memory is a separate phase or not? Loading servlet class to the memory in the sense it is a separate phase or not? They individually have to load servlet class batch code to the memory. If you want to load a particular class batch code to the memory individually without creating an object, then what method we have to use there? Come on, what method here we have to use there? Class.forName method here we have to use. What we have to use there? No? Class.forName method. Okay, good. Understand my point. After completion of servlet loading as a separate phase now, second phase is what there? Servlet initiation. That separate phase would be like what there? No? Servlet initiation. What is the meaning of the servlet initiation? No? In a servlet loading phase, servlet class bytecode is loaded. For that loaded servlet class, we want to create an object. The server wants to create an object for the loaded class. Separately, we have to create an object. Separately, we have to create an object for the loaded class. Are getting my point or not? So to load a particular class, to load a particular class, to load a particular class bytecode into to load, that means to create an object for the loaded class, to create an object for the loaded class, there we have to use one particular method. What is that method here? We have to use there new instance method. So for life cycle of all the server side components, loading, initialization, these two phases are mandatory. For loading phase, we are going to use class.forName method. For initialization phase, what we are going to use there now? New instance method. That is what exactly the point here I'm telling to you about this like a new instance method and a class.forName method. Right, son. Next one is after completion of this. Now these are the various points here we understood clearly. All right, leave this particular point here. This total content is completed, sir. Now what we completed here up to now, then class.forName method and a new instance method, the two things here we completed. All right, sir. Next topic is like what there, what we have to understand from exception handling here, we have to understand this content. All right, sir. No problem. Then I record only few points about this exception handling, not complete exception handling I require. I don't require the complete exception handling. I require only what point here no throws keyword. Next one is a try catch finally. After that, I will move on to the next concepts. Right. Now, first of all, before moving to this throws keyword directly, I would like to ask one question to all of you guys. Now try to answer for my question. What is my question here? What is an exception? In a simple words I require, not require too much complex definition. What is an exception? Simple. Runtime error causes abnormal termination to the application. What is that exception, sir? Now tell me. Runtime error causes abnormal termination to the application. That's it. But I'm able to give one technical definition, too much technical definition, but not required now. I required only this definition. Runtime error causes abnormal termination. What is the meaning of this abnormal termination? What is the meaning of abnormal termination here now? See, for Java applications, two types of terminations here we are able to provide. What are the two types of terminations here? First one is smooth termination and second one is what there? Abnormal termination. Terminating the program at the end of the program, terminating the flow of execution at the end of the program, then it is called as what there? Smooth termination. Terminating the flow of execution in the middle of the program, terminating the execution flow in the middle of the program. If the program execution is stopped due to some interruption, due to some unexpected event, then that termination is called as like what there? Abnormal termination. Abnormal terminations of the program may cause a number of serious problems. Abnormal termination of the program may cause serious problems. What are the serious problems here we are able to get from the abnormal termination of the programs? No, maybe our operating system may be crashed out. If it is a network based application, my network may be hanged out. If it is a server side application, my server may be collapsed, maybe down. If it is a database related application, my entire database may be collapsed. These many serious problems here we are able to get with the abnormal termination of the programs. To avoid these serious problems, we have to provide smooth terminations even though we are getting some interruptions. That means if we want to come out from these particular situations, if we want to come out from these particular things, no, there we have to go for like what there? We have to handle the exceptions effectively. We have to handle the exceptions properly. Then only we are able to get a smooth terminations instead of abnormal terminations. Yes, all of you get my point or not? Just I'm giving 2 points here. What is an exception? What problems we are able to get with exceptions now? Tell me again, what is an exception here? A runtime error causes abnormal termination to the program. How many types of terminations are available for any Java program? 2 types of terminations here. What are the 2 types of terminations here? No. First one is like what there? Smooth termination. And second one is what there? Abnormal termination. What is smooth termination? Terminating the program execution at the end of the program is what there? Smooth termination. Terminate the program in the middle of the program. Terminating the flow of execution in the middle of the program. That is what there? Abnormal termination. Abnormal termination of the programs may cause serious problems. Tell me some examples for serious problems there. No, operating system crashing out, network may be hanged out, then a server may be down, database may be collapsed. These many problems here we are able to get. To overcome these problems, we have to provide smooth terminations to our application, even though we are getting interruptions. So if we want to provide a smooth terminations, there we have to handle exceptions properly. To handle exceptions properly, we have to go for like what there? Exception handling mechanisms. All of you get my point or not? This is a requirement to go for what there? Exception handling mechanisms. Right, sir. That's nice. In Java, there are 2 ways to handle the exceptions. In how many ways we are able to handle the exceptions in Java? In 2 ways. What are the 2 ways of handling these exceptions? No. First one is by using what keyword? Throws keyword, and second one is by using what keyword there? Try catch finally. Try catch finally. Then what exactly the purpose of throws keyword? Then how it able to handle the exceptions? We have to see now. Right, sir. Just I'm giving one simple definition here. Try to understand this definition now. Throws keyword is able to bypass the exception from current method to the caller method in order to handle exception. In order to handle exception. Observe carefully. In order to handle exception. Throws keyword is not handling the exception really. Just it is a skipping from responsibility. It is a skipping from responsibility. This is simply what it is doing there. If it unable to handle the exception in the location, if that exception is not handled, then we have to give that exception handling responsibility to caller method, to somebody else who is the head of this particular method. To that caller method, that handling exception responsibility will be provided here now. So to bypass or to forward exception handling responsibility to some caller method of the present method, we are going to use like what keyword there? No, throws keyword here we are able to use. Throws keyword is not handling the responsibility, just it is a bypassing, just it is a forwarding an exception from current method to the caller method. That's the purpose of the throws keyword. But what is this try catch finally? What is the purpose of this try catch finally? No, the purpose of the try catch finally is not to bypass exception from present method to the caller method. Its main intention is to handle the exception the location where it is generated. The main intention of the try catch finally is what there? Not bypassing exception from one location to another location. Its main intention is what there? Yeah, where that exception is generated, wherever the exception is generated, there to handle the exception, automatically we are going to use what there? No, try catch finally. Yes, sir. All of you get my point or not? Right, sir. So which one is better, guys? Now tell me, throws keyword or try catch finally? Try catch finally is an effective one to handle the exceptions instead of like what there? Throws keyword. Okay, don't worry for it. Then we are going to discuss about this content in detail on tomorrow's session. Tomorrow I'm planning to complete these 2 concepts. Then tomorrow I'm going to start like what there? IOSIMs like a buffer reader, scanner, console. These concepts we are going to understand. So without failure, try to attend for these classes effectively. Tomorrow class, how much time I'm going to take to complete this particular content? I don't know. Maybe half of the class I may take to complete these 2 topics there. Once if I complete these concepts half of the time, then immediately I'm going to start what there? Like IOSIMs. Now this is required for us. Here it may conduct this buffer reader, scanner and console. 3 options are available to take dynamic input. Then where lot of time we are going to take now. So that they are very, very important for us in every JDBC program. And I need to take dynamic input. To take the dynamic input, I have to discuss about either of the concepts. So without failure, try to attend for the tomorrow's class. It's very, very important for us. Right, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We'll meet on tomorrow. Thank you. And 1 minute. Let me share the document also. 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. 1 minute. Notes on what's the date here? 27th. Yeah, we may leave. Don't worry. We may leave. Then I will upload the data. No. Right, sir. That's fine. That's fine. Then tomorrow we'll continue the remaining part. Thank you. Thanks a lot.